cases. And then we go into chop, into potential new accumulation. We assume that this is now going to repeat itself, right? And then we get to walk away from the market because it's no longer doing what we wanted it to do, right? And you can see it kind of falls off, and then what happens? Price makes a move, pauses, makes a move. Right now, in this case specifically, right, I didn't trade it because what I told you before this is that at the moment we're just looking at the momentum that comes in after. So if price had here, moved here, then maybe paused, moved here, then maybe paused here, and then went sideways, that would present a phenomenal entry time frame flush that would lead to new accumulation MB entries that would then lead to likely continuations that would then lead to momentum MBs that happen maybe quickly, that then lead to new pauses, that then lead to new moves. Sometimes the move will just happen instantly and happen very large and not give you multiple entries, and that's fine. What I wanted to do here was just show you a live example of something I personally traded. This is the actual move I traded. Now again, I did not take 10.8 RR out of this. Instead, what happened is I took some off around here, I think, or no, some around off around here, some off around like up here. The rest I closed out. You know, I'll have to find it. But overall, I took around 6 or 7% out of this, 7 RR out of this. And that was really good. So I made a 7x multiple of the risk that I put up, the way I managed this or ended up managing it. We'll talk about management a little bit later. But what we're seeing now, right, is the exact same concept we've discussed a few times, which is that the momentum MBs of the validation time frame, especially when they're created through momentum now, very one-sided markets, and then they break down, those become those flushes on the entry time frame for the major cycle, for the full cycle that's happening. And as they happen, they begin to build those MBs, MB1, MB2, accumulation MBs around those averages, or just as it comes under the average and then up, right? At which point we start creating momentum MBs of the entry time frame, which becomes the follow through of the momentum MB of the V time frame. And together, this is how a move is formed. And this is how you then take yourself to the next step of not maybe continuously getting stopped out and chopped up inside of an entry time frame only, and then take yourself a little bit further to the next level of being able to trade markets that are more, that have proved themselves more. Right? So what you saw in these examples in the last video, when we kind of looked over them, is exactly that. So now you might even want to review the previous video again to see that and to see the things that you maybe picked up on in this video in the examples that are provided here of the moves that I traded, right? Price begins, kind of goes through this 1, 2, 3. So I look to trade it, right, inside of that already predetermined and very clear momentum. And as I'm doing that, what's happening inside of it on a lower time frame? Price is going through that full cycle, through major flush or flush into MBs that might not be super clear, into flush, into MBs that I did not end up trading because this was an FFMB and I just skipped it for that reason, but I could have traded it, into flushes that then lead to MB1, MB2 that I traded, and in this case took a loss, but that's okay because after there was another flush, it came to an MB1, MB2, and the move came. Now, again, I didn't make money on it, and that's okay because I'm not here to just flaunt in your faces that I make money. Instead, it's to show you why I was watching a market, how I was watching that market, and that sometimes watching a market or the good reasons to watch a market leads to very, very normal losses or break evens, which also happened right here, right? Again, as I looked for this trade, where was it? I assumed this was 4, and maybe it had one more move in it, and I just took a loss on it. And then I skipped it, and then guess what happened? Move 1, move 2, move kind of still 2, but it was part of this 4, and then it failed after that. Okay, but that's for the future. We don't need to talk about that yet because that's part of a more in-depth validation cycle. Right now, I just want you to focus on 1, 2, 3, 4. Price then either goes or kind of fails, and then that's it. But that's what I'm doing. And each one of those pauses are leading to an entry time frame cycle. Same thing here. A move I traded, made a lot of money on it. Guess what happened? Move, pause to the averages. As it pauses to the averages, what's happening? That lower time frame is already proving itself. Major flush, stage 1, stage 2, flush, buildup of MBs, buildup of accumulation MBs, double MB. I took an entry. I was happy to take on risk. Momentum MBs, momentum MBs, momentum MBs that led to delivery. new flush, which was part of that higher time frames pause again. What happens? FMB1, FFMB2, or FFMB2, or MB1, FMB2, but more like a momentum MB, price goes through kind of 4-ish stages. You can see right here, kind of goes through this 1, 2, 3, maybe this was 4, which is why you can see I tried to trade it again, and then I took losses, and then price fell off and fucked off. Same exact principle, same exact idea. That momentum and those momentum MBs as they happen through now a very one-sided market, way above the 1020, or like in line with the 1020, above the 1020, pausing on the 1020 with clear already built-in momentum, which is going to be part of the next part of what we discuss, which is learning to see that these are true orders coming in, truly understanding what the COMSIT operator is doing, leads to those entries. Now, again, same thing here. MSTR, this is the example we just went over that I just had a very good trade on, right? 1, 2, what's happening on a lower? Exactly the same thing. That's the move I traded. What's happening on this initial move up when we counted it together, right? Kind of 1, 2-ish, maybe 3, 4. What happened? Here's that 1, flush into the MB build up here. Here's that 2, flush into MB buildups, which were a little bit more choppy, but still was all 2. 3, flush into MB buildups. 4, which wasn't super clear, but still a flush into MB buildups that maybe you traded, maybe you didn't, because maybe it wasn't clear to you, into extension, into fall off, into wait for the market to repeat itself. Same exact concept, same exact thing every single time. This is how moves function. Higher time frame trade that I took at the beginning of this year, 2024, did very well on it. Took around 20% gain on it or so. Very insane trade. What happened? Existing momentum in a market, price kind of fails, but then has a very clear move, pause. I imagine this was 1. Simple as that. Step down inside of it. What do we see? Major flush, stage 2, flush. I entered through this move off the double MB, off the accumulation MBs. Beyond the accumulation MBs started the momentum MBs, which became the validification and continuation of a higher time frames, validation time frame, momentum MBs. 2, 3, 4, failure, failure, reset, and now we're down here. Same exact moves over and over again. And we make money off the main moves. We don't care about all this like potential nonsense scenarios. We wait for the main moves. That's what you're also going to learn. Corn, same thing. And now for the last example that I didn't go over in the last video just because I forgot, we're going to go over it right now with the exact same things. This is a market I also personally traded. Personally traded this thing. I traded it right here. Why? Well, in this case, we already had a market that was good, right? Kind of went 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, or you could go 1, 2, maybe this was all a 3, and then this was a 4, and then extension, failure, boom, breakdown, new accumulation, and then what happened? 1, this could all still be 1, so I kind of traded in here, and it moves higher, 2, moves higher, 3, moves higher, 4, extension, failure, right? There is nothing new about what this market does. Also, just so you guys know, I tried to trade it here. Why? Well, 1, I assumed this was going to make a move. I actually took a trade here and took a loss, just so you guys know. And then on this one, I took like plus 8% or plus 8R multiple or something. But again, what happened? Same exact idea. In this case, if the daily is my validation time frame, then in this case, specifically, the 65-minute is my entry. Now, personally, at the time of making this, I moved more so away from the 65-minute entries to 15-minute entries instead, because it just gives me more opportunity and it's just easier for me. So I've just done that. But nonetheless, right, what happened here? Price started its move, validation time frame wise, came down to where? 1020 or the 5, which we know exists here, but I just don't have it on ever because I don't need to have it on. And you might have it on the lower time frame entry. What happened? Price is pausing in an area where it still has the ability to keep making more so of a move, more than enough area for a move. And as I've discussed now, very one-sided where it wants to go, right? This is not like I might be bearish, I might be bullish. No, if price broke down or it goes sideways, I have nothing to do. I simply walk away from it, right? And then what happens here on a lower? Well, it begins to be part of the cycle. Major flush, accumulates, stage 2, flush or major flush, because remember, this ended up being number 1 for me, or this whole thing was 1, but you could see this as a flush, and then what? Double MBs, it started to move, flush. And in this case, the exact trade I personally traded was, I believe, off of the thing is, I did not have these closed market sessions on, so it looked a little bit cleaner. But the actual move I ended up trading was, I believe, right here, basically. So basically through this MB1, MB2 after this flush. And I traded this double MB, and that's the move that, again, validated MBs and nothing else came back. And then a crazy, crazy move happened. And what happened throughout the move? New flushes, new double MBs, new accumulation MBs, followed by momentum MBs that became the validity and continuation of a validation timeframes momentum MBs that then went for a crazy, crazy move, right? And this is how we bridge the E and the V through multiple examples and how they work together amongst the characteristics of the momentum MBs as well as the accumulation MBs across timeframes to create beautiful moves. I love it. It's beautiful, isn't it? All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.